You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. This episode was originally going to be about the 49ers defense and the Chiefs offense, but sometimes when big news happens, you just have to pivot. And what is that big news? Well, the 49ers made a huge all-in move to trade for former Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey. He is officially a Niner as of last night. Well, officially today, he passed his physical, and I'm going to talk all about it. First, I'm going to talk about the fact that I wasn't able to record an instant reaction episode last night. At this point, it was kind of late in the night. It was a Thursday. You know, once I hit the couch and I'm watching TV with my girlfriend, like that's my night. I'm not leaving the couch. That is sacred time. And so, you know, obviously it's big news. And one of my buddies texted me and he was like, CMC in all caps. And I'm pretty sure he put exclamation point after. And I was like, what is he talking about? Oh, like maybe he's just talking about the, Tim K's article, because Tim K earlier that day on Thursday, he had put out an article for The Athletic saying that, he was hearing rumblings that the 49ers could actually trade for Christian McCaffrey. And so I was like, okay, maybe that's what he's talking about. But I quickly go to Twitter because I'm like, but you never know. Maybe they made it happen. So I go to Twitter and the very first thing I see is Adam Schefter's tweet. And I double checked to make sure that it was a verified Adam Schefter, with the check mark and everything. And it was. And I was like, holy shit, we just traded for Christian McCaffrey. Like, what? And still right now, repeating those words, I got to pinch myself. I'm like, really? Did we really do that? It's incredible. So, yeah, there was a lot of talk from, Tim K mostly was the one saying that, he'd heard that this was something that can happen. And it seemed not that it was likely or anything, but that it was a possibility. And, there's always reports around the trade deadline that, the 49ers could trade for someone. Like, everyone puts out articles like that. So I kind of just brushed it off because I didn't want to get too excited about it. I didn't want to really believe that they would do it and then him end up signing with the Rams or another team and I just be disappointed like I am most years around the trade deadline. But that was not the case. The 49ers got it done. And as we heard, that was shortly reported after the trade, the Rams were, in fact, one of the three teams that were in on Christian McCaffrey at the very end of those negotiations there. Still waiting to find out who that other mystery team is. But the 49ers definitely were one of those teams, and they were the most aggressive team to get him because they're the ones that ended up with him. And that's a huge deal for this team because historically, even the times where they've made some considered big trades at the deadline, we recall Emmanuel Sanders when they traded for him. I believe they only gave up a 6th-round pick for Emmanuel Sanders, if I'm recalling correctly. They didn't give up all that much. Even, that ended up being a great trade for them, but they didn't give up a lot. And so historically, the 49ers haven't been a team that goes all out and says, fuck them picks, So this was a huge surprise because what they did give up for him was quite a lot. So the 49ers, obviously, they received Christian McCaffrey from the trade, but in return, they sent their 2023 2nd-round pick, their 2023 3rd-round pick, their 2023 4th-round pick, and their 2024 5th-round pick. So quite a haul. This is the most I think I've ever seen them give up for a player that wasn't Trey Lance, right? And for Trey Lance, it made sense because it was the 3rd pick overall, and you're trading up for a potentially franchise-altering quarterback, right? But before that, we'd never really seen them do a, mid-season trade of this magnitude. And so seems to be a bit of a philosophy switch for the 49ers in which they want to go all in for this season, and currently sitting at 3-3, but the NFC looks pretty weak, right? If injuries don't get too much in the way for this 49ers team, I mean, it's not crazy to say they can run away with the NFC title. And so Christian McCaffrey definitely helps those chances. But the one question for a lot of fans is, was this too much to give up for him? And I would just say that I don't think that it was. You're talking about a player who is generational at his position. The things that he's been able to do in his career. By the way, he's only 26 years old, so he still has plenty of juice left in the tank. I mean, just last week against the Rams, he had a great game. He had a good game even against the Niners. Despite, and that was before the 49ers had all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Still, Christian McCaffrey is able to get his in pretty much every game, even if the defense keys in on him. And that's the one thing that on the 49ers, defenses they can't key in on just Christian McCaffrey, because this team also has Deebo Samuel. This team also has Brandon Ayuk. This team also has George Kittle. So it opens up a world of possibilities for this team, and I think that's invaluable for them. Also, it was obvious that this team was missing something in the run game. I mean, obviously Elijah Mitchell, who, did a great job last season in the games that he did play. He's been banged up off and on as well. But Elijah Mitchell, when he's out there, he was, very serviceable. But right now the team has been playing these first few games without him. And so they've been missing something at the running back position. And I think, Kyle Shanahan knew that. And as soon as you hear that a player of Christian McCaffrey's, caliber is available, you have to make those calls. And not just, here's another reason why I don't think it was too much to give up. Because in hindsight, let's think about it this way. If the Rams had ended up with Christian McCaffrey, and let's say they had given up, just the same, we'd all be so pissed. We would be slandering John Lynch right now. We would be talking about, I would be doing these very podcasts talking about, well, why didn't they, do it? Why aren't they aggressive? Things like that. And so we got to think about it like that. This fan base has begged the 49ers to be more aggressive, go after, these star players when they become available. And to then complain that we gave up too much when we do that is a little hypocritical. And again, I think that as long as he stays healthy, which is the question mark, right? And we'll get to that in a bit. But as long as he stays healthy, this has the potential to be this could be a franchise-altering move for the 49ers. I mean, certainly you think about everything that Christian McCaffrey could bring to this offense, everything that Kyle Shanahan can do with Christian McCaffrey in his offense, just opens up a world of possibilities. And I think that makes it enough, and so let's see here. There's a couple other things I wanted to go over here. And I wanted to point out some of the draft picks that the 49ers do have next year, right? Because you freak out, you think, oh, they only have two picks next year or something like that. But actually, as of right now, they have 5. They have the compensatory picks, 2 third-round compensatory picks. That was from, the departures of Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel and Martin Mayhew. And they also have the picks that they had before, the rounds 5 and 7, and then the additional round 7 that they got from Denver in the trade. I believe that was for Jonas Griffith. So they have 5 picks in 2023 as of right now. And, I wanted to point out that there's the potential that they get more picks, that, they can make moves they could trade other guys to get more picks, but, they're also projected to get a 5th round and a 7th round compensatory pick due to the free agents that they lost this last season. And so, it is projected, right? It's not a guarantee that they get those. But as of right now, that's what they're projected to get. So that's 2 more picks right there. So you're talking about 7. Then if D'Amico Ryans takes a head coaching job, which as of right now, we're all kind of assuming that he does, right? The 49ers would then get an additional 3rd round pick in 2023. So, think of it like that. They still have plenty to work with. In the 2023 drafts. And another thing that I would say is that this roster right now is pretty deep. I mean, if you have a full draft class where you're getting, 7 or more guys, the likelihood that they even make the 53 is very unlikely. And, we see it year in and year out where the 49ers have to make some really tough cuts at the 53, cut down to 53. And, they're forced to let go of some of their players. Some of those players end up getting picked up by other teams. So, sometimes the way that their roster is right now, you don't need that many picks. You're good for the long haul. I know there's a lot of free agents. There will be a lot of free agents for the 49ers at the end of this season, but their core is intact. Like, they have a lot of guys on long-term contracts that are core players. And I think they feel really good about some of the rookies that they've drafted in this past draft, and also the young players they've gotten in the previous draft as well. So, they feel good about their roster. And so really quickly, Kyle Shanahan had this to say on KNBR earlier. The chances that one of those picks becomes a player you want a second contract for, I'm guessing less than 25%. When you have a guaranteed guy, that's something I feel you never look back on. So that's what Kyle Shanahan said on how much the 49ers gave up for Christian McCaffrey earlier today on KNBR. And he's right. I mean, he's guessing about the less than 25% part, but he's not wrong about the idea here that most of those guys that you pick, one, either won't end up making the roster, or 2, like, you don't get a second contract for. So to use those picks on a known commodity, and not just a known commodity, but a known commodity that is as good as Christian McCaffrey, you're not going to feel bad about it. So the people who overvalue draft picks, it's kind of weird, because we all like to feel something, that excitement in the draft of an unknown guy, the potential, but it's way more exciting when you know who that guy is going to be. And in this case, the 49ers know who Christian McCaffrey is and what he brings, and they feel really good about using the picks that they did in getting him. And John Lynch also today on the trade said, you only do this when you have belief in your team as it's constructed. And that goes to my point of this team right now is very deep. They're in a position to go all in for this season. But Kyle Shanahan also said this isn't a rental, and that's the one difference from this trade to the Emmanuel Sanders trade, right? For the Emmanuel Sanders trade, it was just a rental for him for the last bit of that season and that playoff run. That's all it was. But Christian McCaffrey has several years left on his contract. I believe he signed up until the 2025 season. So, he's going to be with the 49ers for a long time. So that's another reason why you give up a little bit more for someone like Christian McCaffrey, because like I said, he's 26 years old. He has years left on his contract. And again, like, the 49ers feel good about their roster right now, and, they got a good core of guys. So I feel good about the trade. I don't feel bad in the least bit about what they gave up for him. And Wally Lama here in the comments agrees. He said, F them picks. DeLu in the comments said, yeah, it's not very common that a 5th or 7th seventh round pick makes it very far into the league. Yeah, you got to think about it that way. Like there's some people who overvalue picks, and yeah, it just sometimes you got to be able to say, F them picks, you got to go for it. And again, we've been begging this team to be aggressive at these moments, and finally they do it. Let's bask in that glory. Okay. Let's enjoy this. I am totally enjoying this. And glad he's not on the Rams. I mean, that in itself makes it a great trade as well, because I would hate it if he went to the Rams. As we've seen many players that a lot of us have wanted in the past go to the Rams. So the next question, having to do with Christian McCaffrey is the injury history, right? We all kind of know about it, and I think that's the one thing that makes us kind of scared a little bit about this trade, because if you do give that much up for a player, you want to make sure he's going to be available to actually play out his contract and be worth that, right? We know talent wise that Christian McCaffrey is worth what the 49ers gave up for him. By the way, the Panthers said that based on their draft chart, what the 49ers gave up equated to a late first round pick. 49ers obviously didn't have a first round pick because of Trey Lance. So it all ended up equaling just about a first round pick for the Panthers. So it was a win-win, I think, for both sides. But anyway, going back to the injury discussion for Christian McCaffrey, he's now looked at as an injury prone player. And I just want to go through, some of that injury history here. And I wanted to point out that he hasn't missed in the first 3 seasons of his NFL career. He didn't miss any games in those first 3 seasons. It wasn't until after, the 2020 season. And keep in mind, the 2020 season was weird for everyone because it was the COVID year, and training camp and all of those very important things that ramp you up to the season didn't happen, right? So I feel like that kind of contributed to his injuries, but I could be wrong. I'm just speculating. But let's look at these lists of the injuries, right? So like I said, first 3 seasons in the NFL, he was not injured. Then in the 2020 season, September 20th, he suffered a right high ankle sprain in week 2, and he went on to miss 6 games. Then he came back. These two kind of coincide, right? He was dealing with a high ankle sprain and a shoulder injury in 2020, and a thigh injury as well. So he went through it that season. All those, suffered in different games. The shoulder injury he suffered in week 9. He missed 4 games, and then in December, in the week 14 game is when he dealt with a thigh injury that led him to miss 4 games. So that was an injury-riddled season for Christian McCaffrey. But if you guys recall, it was an injury-riddled season for the 49ers as well, and for a lot of teams, because, like I said, those really important ramp-up periods didn't happen due to COVID. So maybe, just maybe, that is the reason. But he did deal with some injuries in the 2021 season as well. He suffered a strained hamstring in week 3, September 2021, and he missed 5 games due to that. And then November 28th, in 2021, he rolled his left ankle in week 12. He was then placed on injured reserve and was ruled out for the remainder of that season. And so I get it. I get the concern about his injuries. As of this season, I don't think he's missed any games. So I could be wrong, but I don't think he has. And, who knows? Maybe he's turned a corner in his injuries, in his injury history right now, that maybe he's going to be all right. I mean, we've kind of seen it with some other players, right? Jimmy Ward was a guy who dealt with a lot of injuries early in his career and kind of was able to turn that around. And yeah, Christian McCaffrey hasn't missed any games yet this season, so he's been healthy. But yeah, so I about the injuries, it is scary, right? I mean, you don't want a player that you gave up that many picks for to get hurt for an extended period of time. Uh, but I think the concerns are a little overblown. I mean, obviously, I don't want him to get hurt, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to say he's injury prone or he's washed at this point. Did you guys see his game last week against the Rams? He looks good. He's very fast. He still cuts on a dime. So as long as he could do those things and stay healthy, I think he's going to be all right. And another thing to consider about his health and him being able to stay healthy here in San Francisco. I know that the theme for the 49ers running backs has been that they haven't been able to stay healthy, right? You think about Elijah Mitchell, even Raheem Mostert when he was, in San Francisco, dealt with, nicks and bruises here and there and would miss games. But the good thing I will say is that Christian McCaffrey's role in San Francisco, or I should say his volume in San Francisco, should be a lot less than it was in Carolina. And another part of that is the fact that he's not going to be the focal point of defenses. So those two things together, I think, help in, Christian McCaffrey being able to stay healthy. Elijah Mitchell should be back after the bye week. I'm not sure what's in for Elijah Mitchell, when he's back, right? What does this mean for him? I would still expect Mitchell to be, part of the offense to an extent, right? I mean, he's going to be able to, spell McCaffrey after he has a big play or something like that. McCaffrey was an every down back in Carolina. Every down back, no matter what. And when you have that much volume and you're taking that many hits because you get the ball all the time and you're the focal point of the defense, yeah. You might take more hits than you need to. And so I feel like that's one area where the 49ers can kind of protect him a little bit better than maybe the Panthers did, where they were, pretty much running him to the ground, because he was their entire offense. The 49ers don't need to rely on Christian McCaffrey, quite that much. So I think that's the one positive, the one thing that, there's a potential that his health can do a 180 here. It could, hopefully he could stay healthy, right? And so, yeah, but I'm excited about this. And again, he's only 26 years old. He has a lot of years left in his contract. The talk has been of him potentially restructuring his contract, which, some have speculated that the 49ers and him have maybe talked about that before the trade even was finalized. And that's certainly a possibility. I'm trying to find the tweet. I was trying to find the tweet of how much he's owed and all that. So Nick Wright on Twitter at Get Nick Wright. He said, folks, just checking CMC's contract off Photo Track aren't realizing that the signing bonus doesn't carry over to San Francisco this season. I'm pretty sure he's only getting paid I'm going off of out of the tweet really quickly, but I think he's getting paid a little less than $700K this season. And that's because I think most of his salary from this season, Carolina has already paid, if I'm not mistaken. So he's making less than 49ers are responsible for paying less than $1 million for him this season. That in itself is a huge win for the San Francisco 49ers. In 2023, he's due to make $11.8 million, same in 2024. And then in 2025, $12 million. So with all of the investments that the 49ers have already made elsewhere, you think about Trent Williams, you think about Fred Warner, George Kittle, they got a lot of guys on big contracts. And yeah, that at some point it's going to hit a fork in the road where you're not going to be able to pay all these guys, right? Nick Bosa, it also due for an extension. So that is the one concern. I don't know if it's a huge concern, but the 49ers, they got Parag Marate and they can work it out, right? He's able to make magic happen with the cap. So, you know, he can probably restructure his contract if he wants to, or they can work out something else to bring down, his cap hits in the later seasons, as I was mentioning. But this season, it's not an issue at all. So, all right, now the question becomes, is Christian McCaffrey going to play on Sunday? The 49ers play the Chiefs. They are 3-3. They're coming off a loss. Me as a fan, I would love to have him out there against the Chiefs, even if it's just a couple of plays. Like, I am ready to see this guy go, but he's obvious. He just flew in today and earlier today, and he didn't get his playbook until after he passed his physical, which was earlier this afternoon, and he was able to catch the last half of 49ers practice. So he hasn't been able to really dive into the playbook, and he didn't really practice with the team today much in any really capacity. He was more so just an observer. So that makes it difficult for him to play on Sunday, I would imagine. But I still feel like he should be active, and I would throw him in there for 2-3 plays max. I mean, it's just that element, it's that threat. Like, I'm ready to see it. And I know Jordan Schultz reported, and I think also Ian Rappaport said that he'll probably suit up. It's likely that he does. And they want to use him in the red zone. So that's interesting, right? I mean, the red zone's a perfect place to want to get him out there, even if you don't use him, even if he doesn't get a handoff, right? Because just the threat of him being there is enough to give the 49ers offense an advantage in the red zone. So I would like it. And another thing I mentioned on Twitter was that, Deebo Samuel, he gets carries out of the backfield, right? He doesn't even attend running back meetings. Like, him as a running back, or Deebo as a running back, is strictly just talent and instincts. Like, and I feel like Christian McCaffrey is so talented and such a good instinctual running back that he doesn't need to know the plays. Just follow the blocks, man. And, he can probably get a good positive play on just talent and instincts alone. Like, that's what I think. So if I'm the 49ers, I'd want to see him out there. Well, okay, if I'm the 49ers, I don't know. But if me as a fan, I want to see him out there, and a couple plays definitely wouldn't hurt. Like I said, he doesn't even need to get a carry. Just him being on the field is enough to give the 49ers an advantage, especially in the red zone. So I would like to see it. But ultimately, the decision lies with Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff. And so we'll just have to wait and see whether they decide to make him active for this game. But even if he's not, most certainly he would be active for the following game. Got to remember, the week after this one is their bye. And then he'll be active for the game against the Rams after the bye, right? Isn't that right? Am I checking my calendar right? I'm like, am I getting my dates wrong? Okay, their bye week is after the Rams game. Sorry. So they got 2 more weeks. So he would play against the Rams, and then they have the bye week. Sorry. But yeah, so all right, that's the Christian McCaffrey talk. As I said, this episode was going to be about the 49ers defense going up against the Chiefs offense, because obviously that's a huge matchup this week. And so I said all I had to say about Christian McCaffrey. I'm really excited about the trade, and I hope that he plays on Sunday. But there's plenty of other things to talk about in regards to this matchup on Sunday. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm increasingly feeling better about this game. Like um when it first all the injuries that happened last week, I was like, man, the 49ers probably don't have a chance against Patrick Mahomes. And I initially thought that they would lose. Like, I was on a podcast with Rob Guerrera of Niners Nation earlier this week, and I said, I don't think they win. I didn't give a score prediction, but I said I think they would lose. And that was just because I assumed that a lot of the guys that were hurt last week were going to end up being out this week. I mean, it seemed pretty grim, right? Like, Ebukam was dealing with his Achilles tendonitis. McGlinchey was dealing with like a calf injury, wasn't even able to finish the game. Like, I was worried. And then Jimmy Ward, like, he had to test out his club before knowing if he can play or not. Talanoa Hufanga had a concussion. Charvarius Ward dealing with a groin injury. I was like, no, if all these guys are out, like, we don't have a chance. Like, those are a lot of our really good players. But fortunately, I don't know what happened. Something happened. I don't know if shout out Andrew Pasquini. Love you, dude. He put out a tweet and he was like, maybe Christian McCaffrey coming to the Bay Area, like, offsets and balances all the bad injury luck that they had. And I was like, you know what? After looking at the injury report today, I'm like, he might have been onto something. Eric Armstead is the only player that isn't on IR that has been declared out for the game, and he's still dealing with his foot and ankle injury. And besides that, all of the other guys that I just mentioned, Charvarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, they're both questionable. And the other guys, Bosa, Trent, Jimmy Ward, Ebukam, McGlinchey, they're all good to go. They're not even on the injury report. That's what? So I have changed my mind. And this is a safe space, right? So I am very for being able to change your opinion when giving you information, right? Like, I am pro changing opinion when given new information. The new information is that the 49ers are going to have a lot of these guys available. So I changed my mind, and I'm feeling good about this game all of a sudden. Like, I feel a lot better than I did 2 days ago. I don't know about you guys, but that's where I'm at. And okay, really quickly though, I wanted to talk about Jason Verrett because yeah, DeLu here says having Bosa and Trent back are a huge boost. Absolutely. Huge boost on both sides of the ball. And the one question is Jason Verrett, right? Like, Emmanuel Moseley, he's obviously out for the season. And so we're all thinking, okay, Charvarius Ward, he might not play. Can we at least get Jason Verrett? But Jason Verrett is probably most likely not going to play in this game either. And the question now becomes, when are the 49ers going to activate him? Because he's currently in his 21-day window, but the 49ers now have until Wednesday to activate him to the active roster. Or if they don't, he'll be shut down for the season. He's not coming back this season if they don't activate him by Wednesday. One thing they could do, even if he's not ready to play in a game like next week, they could still activate him to the roster and just continue to practice him and get him ready to play at a later time. But what you don't want is to shut him down for the season. Like, is he really that? I wouldn't do that. But I also don't know how he looks. So in the clips that I've seen from practice, he looks to be moving around pretty well. So, I think they should just activate him on Wednesday and then play him when he's ready. But unfortunately, he won't be ready this upcoming Sunday. The silver lining in that is that Charvarius Ward, as I mentioned earlier in the week, it seemed pretty grim. Him, playing in this game, groin injury. Nick Bosa missed a game because of his groin injury, right? And that's something that you don't want to mess with. A lot of guys miss time with groin injuries. Charvarius Ward, though, he's been ramping up as the week has progressed. And of course, he wants to play against his former team. He wants all the smoke, right? Like he wants a revenge game. And I want him to have a revenge game too, right? Like I want to see it. And so Charvarius Ward, he's really pushing to play. And I'm torn. I really hope that he does play, but I also don't want to risk uh re-aggravating or worsening his groin injury, right? Because that could be really bad. You got to think long term. You got to think full season. But I hope he can play, and I hope he plays because he's at or near 100%. If he's not at or near 100%, I don't want him on the field. There's no need to risk that. But would obviously like to see Charvarius Ward play. Now, Talanoa Hufanga is the other question, right? He was one earlier in the week. I was like, man, he's got a concussion. He started experiencing symptoms on Monday because if you guys recall, he left the game, during the game to get a concussion evaluation. He was evaluated, I think, twice in the game, and they said he was good. He was cleared, and then he had symptoms on Monday. So I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like he looked fine, and now he's not. So I felt like it was a setback almost, and so I wasn't feeling good about him playing on Sunday, especially with the concussion protocols. I feel have gotten, after what happened with Tua. I felt like, the concussion protocols maybe just a little stricter now. But Talanoa Hufanga has been progressing pretty nicely as of right now. It seems like, I think Kyle Shanahan said he just had to clear one test to be cleared for the game. And so that's positive news, right? I mean, he has 2 days to clear that. 2 days to clear it. And yeah, I mean, assuming that he's continues to progress, he should be able to do that. So Hufanga also, obviously a huge boost if he's out there. He's been playing great. Like I said, Bosa, gonna be huge to stop Patrick Mahomes, as will be Samson Ebukam. I mean, those are the starting edge rushers right there. So when it comes to setting the edge, when it comes to keeping Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, which I think is going to be a huge part of this game. Like, the one thing with Patrick Mahomes, what makes him so dangerous is those off-schedule plays. It's when he escapes the pocket and he's running, off towards the sideline, and he finds somebody and he can throw across his body. It doesn't even matter. Like, he can make these crazy throws when he escapes the pocket. And so I think keeping him in the pocket, I think, will be a big key for the defensive line, and having Bosa and Ebukam on the edge, should really help the game plan there and being able to do that. Now, Jimmy Ward too, I'm excited about him being able to play. I don't know if he can catch an interception with the club that he's going to be playing with, but hey, we've seen a near interception with the butt interception. I don't know if you guys remember that, but hey, if you can catch an interception with your butt in one hand, Jimmy Ward, he can do it too. I mean, he doesn't need two hands. He's got his butt if he needs it, or just like, you just need one hand. So Jimmy Ward, I'm excited to have him back out there. And yeah, McGlinchey, that was another one that I was kind of worried about, right? Because yeah, Trent is back, but then I was like, if McGlinchey's out, that's not good. So McGlinchey, he's good to go though, so he's going to be out there, and that obviously is a boost for the offense as well, because McGlinchey's a huge part of run blocking. He's been solid pass blocking as well. So, for the offense to get going, they need to protect. And so having the offensive line at full strength is good going into this game. But yeah, like I said, this episode, the second half at least, is going to be about, the 49ers defense. And the one thing I wanted to point out, let me share my screen here, because was looking at the matchups here for the 49ers, right? And you look at the Chiefs offense. The Chiefs offense, obviously Kelsey is right now he's the best tight end in football. Kelsey is, and he's hard to stop. He's one of those players. He's like a Cooper Kupp. He's like a Christian McCaffrey. It doesn't matter what you do, he's going to get his. He's just one of those guys. He's matchup proof. So you can't stop him. You can only wish to contain him. You can only limit him, but he's going to get his. But you just got to make sure that you do enough to make sure he doesn't blow up. Like, what, 2 weeks ago, he had like 3 or 4 touchdowns or something like that. Like, that can't happen. And it won't happen against the 49ers. I feel pretty good about that. I feel good enough about their defense that they're not going to give up multiple touchdowns to Kelsey, hopefully. But Kelsey is not their entire offense, but he's their best receiving option. I mean, they have Valdez Scantling, former Packers. They have Mecole Hardman. He's been on the Chiefs. And they have Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, a lot of like, I don't know. I mean, they're good receivers, but they're not consistent receivers. They're kind of mid, and one will have a good week and then the other like kind of sucks, and then they every week it's like a different guy that contributes. So it's nothing like this offense was in the Super Bowl, where they had Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill is amazing. I mean, he's amazing even with the Dolphins, and so that they're definitely missing him. And the positive about Tyreek Hill not being on this Chiefs team anymore, from the 49ers defense standpoint, is the fact that you don't have to necessarily do anything special to defend against these Chiefs wide receivers. You don't have to do anything special to defend MVS, Hardman, and Juju, right? Like it's a regular week, when it's Tyreek Hill, you have to really you have to make a concerted effort to stop him, and just him, because that's how important he was to the Chiefs offense, right? And so now the 49ers won't have to quite take into one receiver into that much of account, I guess. And so that's the one positive. So really the biggest thing is stopping Mahomes, right? Keeping him in the pocket. Like I said, don't let him get those off schedule throws. Stopping Kelsey as much as possible, limiting him as much as possible. And everything else should go well. But it all starts with stopping Mahomes. And the 49ers did a pretty good job for the most part of doing that. Certainly better than I had seen teams do, back in the Super Bowl. The Bills have done a good job. I know last week they were playing a lot of man coverage against the Chiefs, which, seemed to be a good strategy. That's not something they were really able to do against the Chiefs when Tyreek Hill was in the picture. So again, like, that's the advantage that you have when Tyreek Hill isn't there. You have the flexibility to do different things, and you're not committed defensively to just stopping, one guy. So it all starts with stopping Patrick Mahomes. Easier said than done, but I feel so good about this defense, that even with the injuries, right, that they have, obviously Emmanuel Mosley not being out there is a huge blow. And like I said, Charvarius Ward, he's been amazing. If he can be out there, that's a huge boost for this defense. But I wonder, can Lenore and Womack do a good job, on the outside, or, at the slot too? I hope so, right? And that's what it will all come down to. But as a whole, I feel good about the defense, and getting a lot of guys back is important. Newbie says, who is playing opposite Ward on corner? Yeah, I mean that's the question, right? I would think Diamador Lenore, but they could also decide to put Samuel Womack on the outside too and have Lenore in the slot and vice versa. Like those two guys can play both slot and outside. So it's whatever the 49ers feel is best for them this week. But obviously that's a drop off from Emmanuel Mosley, but still as a whole, I feel good about this defense. So hopefully Mooney Ward will be out there, because I think if he is, he's going to try like hell to put on a masterclass and get his deserved revenge game against the Chiefs. I don't know how they let him go, because he is a stud. And I love him being on the 49ers defense. He has completely changed, the secondary for them, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the key to stopping the Chiefs. It starts with stopping Patrick Mahomes, and how you stop Patrick Mahomes is you cover guys and you keep Mahomes in the pocket. That's going to be the key to stopping the Chiefs. But again, the Chiefs are an explosive offense. I do expect, even with a good performance from the defense, the Chiefs are going to get theirs. I mean, they just need one big play. Like they're one of those teams that can, really turn the game around with, a big play, as we have seen, unfortunately. But yeah, I still feel good, and I feel good that the offense will be able to get some scores going too. Hopefully they can sustain drives. They need to clean up the drops. They need to clean up the fumbles and, turning the ball over. And they, if they do that, they should win. Well, I don't know if they should win, but they should have a good chance at winning if they play their game right, and the run game is effective. This matchup for the run game should be better, hopefully. So we'll see. And if Jimmy Garoppolo continues to play as he has these last few weeks, I think he's going to put the offense in good position to win, right? So it's just about everything else, all the execution has to be on point if you're going to beat the Chiefs. So, like I said, I'm feeling more optimistic about this matchup than I was 2 days ago. And that's crazy to say. Just a huge turnaround of, guys getting healthy at a good time. And yeah, I feel like the 49ers are, I'm going to say they're going to win. I think it's going to be very close and it's going to be very difficult, but I think they could win. And so that's why I will predict that they do win. But it's going to be close, 26-24 Niners. It's going to come down to the wire. Newbie says, I was listening to the Chiefs podcast, and for some reason their offense struggles when defenses rush 3 and drop 8 into coverage. My guess would be just because they don't have like Tyreek Hill, they don't have that threat anymore. And so if you can cover those guys, and yeah, I mean, I think keeping Mahomes in the pocket is one key to beating them, but obviously also covering the receivers. And these receivers, like I said, aren't Tyreek Hill. Like they're not guys who are gonna get open on every play. So they're a little easier to cover on the back end. So yeah, I could see that working as well. And the 49ers could definitely do that. They're built to be able to rush 3 and still get pressure, right? And so I don't know. Maybe that's something that they'll do. Like I said, the Bills last week, they did a lot of man coverage, and that seemed to really affect the Chiefs offense. So we'll just have to wait to see. But I trust D'Amico Ryans, right? I trust his game plans, and they're always really good. He might pull some stuff out of his hat as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I optimistically think the 49ers could come away with a win. I think it'll be a close one. So yeah, 26-24 Niners. But stay tuned. After the game on Sunday, I'll be doing a instant reaction episode. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel if you are not yet. Make sure you do like this video if you have not yet. I appreciate all the love. I am so close to being able to monetize on YouTube. And I just want to let you guys know that each and every one of you guys watching this video for any length of time, and each and every one of you who likes this video, subscribe and all that, like, you guys help me out a bunch in being able to reach that goal. And when I do reach that goal of being able to monetize, I'm going to be doing a giveaway. So, it's going to be good times. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and go Niners. Peace.